Hi everyone, it's Amanda. Today I'm going to be doing my top 2023 reads of the year. So let me start by saying happy New Year's Eve, everybody. I really hope that everyone is excited for the new year to begin. Doing some vision board planning or just having a fun night out on the couch, splendid. But right now I'm gonna hit you with my top 8 reads of the year. I didn't have a great reading year in terms of quantity or quality, unfortunately. I read under 60 books in 2023. I was just so busy in 2023. I really kind of lost my passion for both making videos and reading for short periods of time that turned into longer periods of time. So I really want to refresh and rejuvenate for 2024. But these are the top of the top. They're actually the only 5-star reads that I had this year. But be sure to like, subscribe down below if you love romance books like me. I would love to have you here in 2024. And let's just get right into it. So in the number 8 slot, I have Bone Island by Nicole Fiorina. This one is a little bit tabbed. I started tabbing this year a little bit, but I'm not very good at it yet. We're trying, but I did tab some of my favorite quotes. I'll share 1 or 2 of them with you in a little bit. This is a forbidden love story, star-crossed lovers, cursed town, witches, revenge plot, beautiful love story, but this comes with a but. You have to be in the mood for very lyrical writing and a slower plot line, slower burn, and a character-driven story. So I'll let that sink in, but once you are in the mood for this, it is so beautiful and you'll never find anything like it. The closest thing that I can compare it to is The Starless Sea by Erin Morgenstern, just because of the writing style, not because of anything to do with the plot. In this one, we follow Stone and Adora. Stone is the 5th heathen and he's the lost heathen. He has a incredibly tragic backstory that you get to learn about in the beginning of the book, and that makes you very attached to his character and able to connect that much more with the love story. But to explain the heathens, they are this group of guys that are kind of in this brotherhood, and when people see their face, they die because they see their worst fear. And so the plot of the first book is kind of following a different heathen as he meets a girl that can see his face and not die. But Stone has a completely different story. He actually wasn't brought up in Weeping Hollow, and so he's returning to Weeping Hollow after many years being abused and just having this incredibly hard time. And when he returns, Adora discovers him and he thinks he knows her. That's kind of the premise, and there's star-crossed lovers, forbidden love, and it's so beautiful because Adora and Stone have this sort of refuge at Bone Island from reality. Adora is on this quest for revenge for her mother, and she's also betrothed to another man, and so when she gets to see Stone and kind of take care of him in a way, she is able to escape that, and then it all comes crashing down eventually. And there's both tragedy and happiness in this book. You really feel all the emotions. I was in tears when I finished this book just because of how beautiful it was, but that is the sign of a great book. I just want to share a couple of my favorite quotes. So one is, "All this time we kept rewriting our tragic story, desperate to change our bitter end. And what has saved us? Our hearts were so tangled, it was hard to know who was holding who too tight. We have a love that outlasts love. Fate was never on our side, but we didn't need it. Time stood in our way, so we created our time." Then we have, "There's more to me than this, I know, but there's no escape. Trauma has a way of tying knots with our bones. This is what happens when a woman has a mind she can't use, a loyalty she's forced to refuse. This is what happens when a woman's oppressed, silenced, ridden of purpose. This is what happens. I want to scream. My rage has turned into crazy. My secret is so heavy, the things that would happen to me if I ever said it aloud. I hate them for what they did to her. I hate them for what they're doing to me, but I hate myself more for this thing inside me feeding me these thoughts I can't control." Yes. If this like really got you thinking you need to read it, you need to read it. Confirmed. Then in number 7, we have Only When It's Us by Chloe Lees. This is the start to the Bergman Brothers series, which I'm sure you've heard about. This cover is kind of different than the original. This was a special edition that I got because I loved the book so much. But this book is both funny while also handling some topics like grief. We follow Willa and Ryder. Willa is this really fun, hot-tempered soccer player, and she's dealing with a lot right now. Her mom has cancer. She's missed a few classes, and so she goes into class one day and the professor is being a real dick and he's not giving her the lecture notes. He says, you need to go partner with this guy over here to get the notes. So she ends up having to ask this guy for the notes, but he's not answering her, he's ignoring her. But it ends up being Ryder, who is hearing impaired, and so we have that representation in here, and he doesn't know now why she hates him so much, because now day after day this girl seems so mad at him, but he's not sure why. So it's kind of the beginning to their story. There's a lot of really good banter in here while also covering some serious topics, and it's just such a good balance of both. And that's what I really, really look for in my contemporary rom-com sort of books. And you'll see another one on this list that has that same element. I just really like some serious topics woven in, and for it to be done well. I don't like it to be put on the back burner or trying to do something that it's not going to do, but this one was just perfect and funny, and I just fell in love with Chloe Lisa's writing when I read this. So 10 out of 10, definitely recommend. Ryder is very much a cinnamon roll hero, and he is misunderstood, and the family you get to meet in here will just make you want to pick up the rest of the series. Then at number 6, we have quite the little surprise. We have Soul Eater by Lily Mayne. Now, this is a monster romance, but don't let that fool you. This is so action-packed. This is juicy and glorious, and one of the best monster romances I've ever read. If you've never read a monster romance before, I would say check this one out. Check this one out. If you like male romance, check this out, because monster romances can be very hit or miss, and if you start with the wrong one, you're gonna be like, why do you like this? I do not subscribe. But this one I feel like would be great, and I don't see a world where you might not like this. No, I'm just kidding. But this is a really good one. It's action-packed. We follow Danny and Win. Win is a soul eater, and he's like a very powerful monster that kills humans a lot. And he comes around every like 3 years to suck them dry. And Danny is part of the military, and he's part of this mission to capture the soul eater. He ends up in this predicament where a lot of humans die, and Win over here leaves Danny alive when he could have like slaughtered his ass. So Danny's like, what's so special about me? Why did he leave me alive? And so we're following that. There's a lot of fun dialogue between the two characters, and it's really, really fast paced. It's building a world because this is a series, and it was just so impressive. I really want to continue on with the series, and it was short and sweet. Highly recommend. Not to mention the smut was so hot in this book, and just the monster element of this is so fun because the monster wears like a hood, and so we have that like reveal and everything, and it's just a good time. Okay, then we have Yours Truly by Abby Jimenez. This book was so good, and it took me by surprise yet again. In this one we follow Bree and Jacob. Jacob is a doctor that ends up transferring to Bree's hospital, where Bree really wants this promotion, and she thinks that he has come over to her hospital to take her promotion, so she's not a huge fan of Jacob. Bree is also recently divorced, so we also have that element where our main character is healing, and on the other hand, Jacob also just got out of a breakup, and he has a lot of healing to do as well because his ex is actually with his brother now. Jacob, on the other hand, has no idea why this lady hates him so much, and he really wants to make things right. They start exchanging letters that are really cute, and they kind of banter back and forth. And then Bree also has a brother that needs a kidney, and that just comes up also. It's not randomly thrown in there like I'm saying, but he ends up donating his kidney anonymously. So to pay him back for that act of kindness, which is a lot, she ends up agreeing to fake dating him because he really wants a date to all these wedding events that his brother and his ex are doing. So there's a lot going on in this book. As you can tell, it's hard to summarize this one. A lot of the negative reviews do mention how it had so much going on all in the same book, and I can agree with that, but I thought it was done really, really well. It kept things really exciting. I loved Jacob a lot. He was very understanding and considerate, and just a great book boyfriend, like the ideal man that you would want. Bree is really funny, kind of on the colder side compared to Jacob, and so he kind of opens her up a little bit. He's very relatable to me because of the anxiety representation, so that probably made me really like this book a lot more. And he also has a Bernese Mountain Dog with 3 legs, and that just sold it for me. Then at number 4, we have one that's probably on everybody's list, as it should be, which is Divine Rivals by Rebecca Ross. This book is just everything I didn't know that I needed in the moment that I read it. I just was not expecting to love this book that much. I picked it up just on a whim, and I can't believe it just sucked me in from the very beginning and didn't let me go. I have the second book coming in the mail, and I'm just so excited to finish out the duet. But this book has a war between gods, magical typewriters, 2 people that belong together. They're rivals at first, but they turn to lovers. There's letters, there's banter between our main characters. There's great side characters, and the setting is so vivid, and you follow the tragedies of war and the hope that you can find in the darkest of times. And it is just so beautifully written. It makes me want to pick up every single book Rebecca Ross has ever written. I'm sure that they're all glorious and beautiful, but this was the first one I picked up by her, and it won't be my last. To give you a little bit more detail than just that, we follow Iris and Roman in this book. They're both writers and they work at the same place, so they're up for the same promotion, which is why they are labeled as rivals. Iris is definitely not a fan of Roman, but Roman has been secretly admiring Iris and secretly reading her letters that she doesn't know are going to him because their typewriters are both magical. Enter an amazing romance where you kind of have that hidden identity there where they've been talking to each other without knowing it, and it's so beautiful. You can tell he grows just more and more attached to her as time goes on, and then things start happening. There's a war between gods. Our heroine Iris has a lot going on. Her mother's facing addiction. Her brother Forrest is missing. He went off to war, but she can't get in contact with him. So when the opportunity arises where she can go to the front lines while also being a journalist for the war, she takes the opportunity and she gets to meet newfound family and also learn about what's really going on. And while she's out there on the front lines, Roman follows her until they end up together as journalists and they are documenting the war. So it is very good. It has a really great ending that will make you kind of mad, but the second book is out, so I'm very excited to dive into that one and highly recommend reading this book. Oh, I forgot to mention one of my favorite quotes. Well, I have a ton because that book is a masterpiece. One of them really stuck with me, and that's, "I love the words I write until I soon realize how much I hate them, as if I'm destined to always be at war with myself." In number 3, we have a dark romance. Surprise, surprise. Crossed by Emily McIntyre. This is the Big Daddy dark romance. I think this is probably the hottest book that I read this year, and I don't know what it is about it. I think it's the forbidden aspect. It just had me sweating and shaking, and that's all you want out of a dark romance, am I right? This is a priest romance, which honestly shocks me because I had been saying in previous years that I don't really vibe with that because I just don't like religion in my books. Wrong answer. This is a Hunchback of Notre Dame. Villain gets the girl. Emily McIntyre reimagining, and it is so good. We follow Amaya and Cade, Father Cade. He's French. There is French in here. He is ridding the world of all evil, and that just so happens to be killing some people sometimes, okay? He has to do what he has to do. But Amaya, he just can't seem to get out of his head. I just loved everything about this book. There's touch her and you die. Literally, you will die, actually. Amaya was actually one of my favorite characters that Emily McIntyre has written. She was very strong. She was taking care of her neurodivergent brother alone and really standing up for him to the town. The town was very cruel to him, and she really stood her ground and stood up for him, and I really loved that. That was throughout the whole story, not just a piece of it. It was throughout the whole thing. She really was trying to do what was best for her small little family that she had. And she's having a really hard time because this man that used to be with her mom is kind of dictating how much money she can make. And so she ends up dancing in secret on the other side of town under the name Esmeralda, which is where Father Cade sees her, and kind of gets obsessed with her, ends up following her around, stalking her, and then a romance sparks. It's a very slow burn, so I loved that a lot, and it was just, the tension was building every single page, and it was just so good. She ends up getting engaged to the guy who was dictating her life because it'll just be easier for her to kind of manipulate him in a way, because she really wants to take care of her brother and she's just trying to do what's best for him, and right now that's really the only way out she can see. So Father Cade sees this happening and is like, absolutely not. That's not gonna happen. So you get to see how that plays out. Then in number 2, I of course have Fourth Wing, because I am just like every other girl, okay? I really love this one. I know you guys know what this is about, so I won't go too much into it, but I really loved this because it was action-packed from the very beginning. It brought me nostalgia that reminded me of Divergent and everything that I grew up on, and so that kind of made me biased towards the story. I just loved it. And I love how there was a spicier side to things. So it was like growing up with me, but also having that kind of elements of the stories that I used to love. Dragons, so fun, so action-packed. It was very fast-paced, loved it. Now Iron Flame, I'm not liking her. I'm not liking her right now, but I hope that it turns around. I'm only on page like 100 or something, but I am suffering to get through that, but hopefully it gets better. Anyway, this one, number 2 on the list. And my top read of 2023 is Hopeless by Elsie Silver. I absolutely love the Chestnut Springs series. I fell in love with all of them this year. I haven't actually read the Surprise Pregnancy one though yet, because I was just like, do I have to? But I'm going to. I'm in the middle of it right now. But Hopeless was absolutely my favorite one and my favorite book of the year. It was just so good. It had me kicking my feet. It had me laughing, but also feeling for the characters. And that's all I can ask out of a romance book. I loved Bailey and Beau. In this one we follow Beau, who is our damaged hero. He is also the town's hero. And he doesn't feel very heroic though. He's dealing with a lot of PTSD from the military. He's back and he's on the ranch, but he's not passionate about it at all. He's feeling very depressed and just going through the motions, and now he's drinking away his pain. Then we have Bailey, who is a bartender, and she has a horrible reputation in town, and so she can't really get a job other than this bartending job that she luckily got, and she's just trying to make ends meet. Her family makes her pay the bills, and she's trying to get another job, but nobody's gonna give her a chance. So enter the fake engagement. Beau ends up striking a deal with Bailey, and there's nightmare trope in this, which probably is another reason why I loved it so much. I absolutely love when there's some hurt comfort in the books in terms of nightmares, and it's not as common of a trope, so when I do get it in books I'm like eating it up. But we also have age gap. I think that Bailey was 22 and he was 35. She's also a virgin heroine, and normally I don't really love that in books, but this one was just done really, really well for my taste. She was a take no shit badass type of person, and so when that topic came up, she was like, don't treat me like a little flower, you know, like don't bring this up as a topic. There was a quote in there that I really liked even about it, and it was just done really, really well in my opinion. Inexperienced, but experienced enough to know what she wanted. The spice was so good, and I was kicking my feet laughing during this. It has the charm of the Eatons, and the family dynamic was there, the little text group chat. It was a 10 out of 10 romance read, and I really, really am looking forward to what else Elsie Silver is going to put out next year. That is all of my top reads. I really hope that you guys had a great reading year, and maybe you got a recommendation out of this list. If you have a recommendation for me to read in the new year, leave it down below. I would love to check it out, and I will see you in my next video. Bye guys!